So guys, a lot going on. I don't know who else is. I know there's Jared, who is an intern with Callan Family Office, is going to be joining us. Maybe Jeff is as well. But so very much going on.
What are the rules, just so I can be remotely?
There are none. There's no. So I think both Steve and Joe are on. I tried to suggest that maybe we have a policy shot down. And I thought, is everybody too busy? Should we make this a half hour? Shot down. So, Mike, there are no rules, and we can discuss anything we want. And
that's not really true, George.
Yeah,
I would say this gets recorded and posted, so it needs to be family friendly.
That is true. I wasn't going to tell Mike though, because I just thought, why not try to, shame publicly?
Nice.
Here's Silvana. Good morning, Silvana.
Good morning.
Silvana, I'm saying this to you, and I said it yesterday to two women who committed to come. It's embarrassing that at the summit, the fact that there were 6 women in the room, in the room of, let's call it 40. The fact that there were 6 women is awesome. Or the fact that it was only 6 women is something I'm working on. I know you're going to be here again next year. Please bring a friend. I recruited 2. I had 2 women who are becoming growth drivers, have committed to come. Let's amp it up. Let's amp it up.
Amen. I'm doing my best on this side.
Yeah. I want to be horribly sexist on this one.
Well, it's a good balance. I don't think women are better than men or vice versa. I just think that together, it's a more harmonious output in the end.
Yeah, and we communicate differently, right? I mean, we see that in engagements. If you're working with, respect your audience and their perspective. So, yeah, man. Yeah. So, what's everybody working on? What's going on? What's good?
Too much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we're maybe I'll go first for a change. No, I always hog the microphone, but we have C3D in really good shape, guys. To say I'm excited is an understatement. And when you participate in C3D, and I'll still use the word participate, even though it's online, and self-paced, you will have access to the recording, and in that recording, importantly, we will have subject matter experts on the various topics, right? For example, I have on the Exit Planning 101, I have Fletcher Brown, the CEO from BEI, is going to be on riffing on the content, as is Eric Owen of Oak Hill, who's a super experienced exit doer. And so, I think we can learn a lot from them. So that's just as an example. And that's an example of the new modules. We have new modules on exit planning as a strategic plan, on collaboration, which I'm actually finishing up right now, and is turned out to be a much meatier topic than I had anticipated in my head. We have Value 101, where we talk about, we get into value. So as a business advisor, you have some points of reference when somebody says intrinsic value or market comps, sources of data, etc. Calculation of value is most important for an internal transfer, and why, third-party sale, and why. So super excited about that. What else did we add? We brought in one of the modules from the facilitation course that several of you have participated in. So we're just going to do an hour on facilitation, but it's that 5 Ps, which is it has turned out to be everyone's touchstone, the 5 Ps of facilitation. And that's kind of a teaser. It's on the books. I haven't released a date yet, but we will start offering our facilitation course and live workshop here in Charleston or somewhere else. So there's a bunch of great stuff in there. And had a tee-up meeting yesterday with the team at 90.io. And that is, we have a webinar on the books for early November, more to follow. And we are going to onboard into 90 as cohorts. And then that's not going to surprise you. There are a couple of reasons for that. And one of them is setting up each of your, let's say, your accounts with the growth drive methodology. which I will say, without giving his name, the gentleman who was on the call yesterday, who's a senior leader at 90, was quite excited about what we bring to the party. Understatement. Yeah, I mean, we had an absolute geek out on it, and it turns out that the 3 dimensions of growth resonates. We're going to do it as cohorts, but an important part of the cohorts, it's not simply that you will have access to the growth drive methodology inside 90. It is that we will continue to operate as a cohort in the same way as we always have. The Jetsons and the Jetsons and the 49ers and the 14ers. We will have cohorts, named cohorts, and you guys will have your own place inside the community to workshop implementation, in which both Growth Drive and potentially 90 folks will participate. So really more sophisticated than here it is. Good luck. We want to make sure that you understand it, that you're highly confident deploying it with your clients, and that you refer clients in. I don't make a dime. I'm going to say it again. I don't make a dime on this. It costs us money. If you think of time as money, it costs us money. If we are committed to delivering successful outcomes, 90 can be a very powerful ingredient there. So, Ed, good morning, sir. Ed and I just got together, a week ago. Had breakfast together a week ago today.
Exactly.
Yeah, man.
I just got back from one.
Excellent. Good trip home?
Yes, very good.
So Ed came down to, Ed, you want to talk about why you were in Charleston?
Yeah, I was down to do a little consulting and then also to be consulted upon. One of the presentations we had while we were down at the Growth Drive was the summit. Beth LaGuardia did a presentation on books. And so one of the things I did was I came down and met with them to develop the outline and the plans for the book that I've been working on. So things gave me direction.
Yeah, was it worthwhile?
So I had a great 2 days with them. It was very hard and very intense. But
that's why Beth and I are friends, right? Never let up.
As Mike Garrison said, it was another awesome networking opportunity.
Yeah. So Forbes was a sponsor of our 2024 summit, and Ed came down. Several of you are starting to explore working with them, which I think is great. They are an outstanding, a very high quality resource for planning, writing, and publishing. Not only a book though, Ed. You guys talked about authority more generally, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think the book was probably the secondary purpose. The other thing was how to position yourself as an authority in what you're doing and how you're doing. Everything from a website to business cards to a strategy on how I put things together and how I present myself as I'm working with prospects. And I guess the most notably, as Mike Garrison would say, how do people get to know what I can do for them very quickly?
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, books are powerful, right, Mike? For example, Mike, you're getting the love this morning. Mike's book is we're using so the collaboration module has 2 aspects, right? There's collaboration for getting business owners, CEOs to start taking action. Who would we collaborate with? What does that look like? That's right, Joe. Can I borrow your car? So Can I borrow your car is part of the curriculum, and won't surprise you, my book is, and then, and several others. So the books are listed, by the way, on the website. If you go to the C3D, it's me. So at the bottom, here are the modules. I will update those. I'll try to do it today, or we'll get those updated. I'll ask A to Z to do it. When you're writing an outline, it's like writing a book, right? When you're writing an outline for a course, Mike, if you have any experience with this, feel free to jump in. When you're writing an outline for a course, you have a nice logical, and you're like, great, this looks good. This is what we'll do. And then you start writing it, and you discover that you have to move stuff around. It's like writing, chapters in a book. You have to move things around. A certain concept is better covered somewhere else. There's a concept or, some topic that you were like, we weren't going to discuss it, but it turns out we really need to. So that's happened as we've started screwing the course down. It's finalized, and one of the modules are written. Go ahead, man.
I was going to say, I think the hardest part, having written several books and
Any bestsellers?
several, and also been a part of being a master franchiser before, like, so writing extended certification programs for referral coaching and other things like that. I think and going through another one right now, we're going to be teaching the new EPI certification for value advisors and financial advisors starting 2 weeks from now. And it's been really fun, but it's hard. And I think the thing that I would add to what George said, for all of you that at some point are going to be doing either writing your own book or, writing another training curriculum, knowing some of the people that are on the Zoom here, it's, you create it and you feel good. Okay, we got our outline. And then you start working on it, and you not only move stuff around, but with me, that activates a part of my brain, and I start creating new modules. And so far we have 2 bonus modules, because I only have 12 training slots at an hour long in the program for EPI. So now we have 2 bonus modules, because I had to write a social media bonus module, and then I had to go deeper on one called Find a Rabbi.
Love it. It's funny. I started laughing because we have what we call boosters, right?
Yeah.
You're
Same
the
deal.
booster module.
All that reflects is the inability of the person writing the training to actually cut out stuff.
You know what? I think of it. Yes, and where everybody on the share. I have more to share. It's also, I think of it as the parking lot, right? Like, okay, this doesn't really belong in the course, but it's really relevant.
Well, it's interesting because, like, the training programs I do are explicitly tied to tracking revenue, right? So they're not, hey, you master this skill, best of luck. They are, there are specific action points every single month, and they are all tied to tracking for ROI. And, it's a $12,000 a year program, and, we're looking at a 5X ROI at least, right? And so, it's different when you're writing programs like that, where you're tying participation to paying for itself moreover.
Were you still in the room when I presented the growth drive process, Mike? I know you had to leave early.
I don't know. I was there for the world's worst advice on AI.
Leave that alone. Leave it alone. We put it in the ground, man.
You didn't give it, by the way.
I did not give it. Mike and I what do we talk about at 6:30 in the morning? We talk about things like yesterday we got into a full debate about how would you even like marketing and selling. And I made the comment to Mike, and something you all have heard me say, which is, most of us know we need to market, but we suck at marketing. But we are, all of us here, right, are good at working with people. Don't get into people skills there, Garrison. I'm watching you. I'm also, what's so distracting about your background is I'm like, man, how are you going to get a fly like rush through that tree?
The deeper water is here, so that's where they stack up.
Yeah.
They'll be rising here in the
Yes, exactly. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at you, Riffle. Like Mike, I like to fish. But what's marketing? What's sales? What kind of marketing do we separately and together? There's overlap. Believe that you guys should be doing as advisors, and then those are the you'd think that 6:30 in the morning we'd have something other than that to discuss, but put passionate people together, and all of you, right? All of us, not you.
It's the interesting thing that came out of that conversation. I'd like to see what you all think. Is I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that teaches referrals that will openly tell people that they should potentially do advertising. Because at a certain point, if you're not effective at the top of the funnel on your own, working with referral sources or cold calling or whatever, if you're not able to drive enough appointments because of who you are, that's why God created advertising. And I tell that to people all the time. I'm like, there's nothing moral or immoral other than your own actions. And so how you get clients is completely up to you and completely up to, number one, your comfort zone. But I've seen a lot of people die on the referral cross because they went to a seminar, hopefully not one of mine, but they went to a seminar and they were told that, like, you know, you're a terrible salesperson and you're no good if you can't get all your business by referral. And I find that to be terrible. Family friendly. I'm trying to be family friendly, as I was reminded early on, right? But I find it to be abhorrent and horrible because here's the deal. Like, you know, advertising doesn't save you time. It just takes money to buy your time back. As long as the process works, as long as you are able to continue it, I think it's fine. But you know, be careful. Most people that say they want to do my system don't. Right?
They don't want to, or they don't do it.
Yes.
Got it.
Right? They bought their own idea of what it was and didn't understand that it's a professional sales process. Right?
Touchdown. Totally agree. And I don't want to go on the segue I was about to introduce into the conversation. It is a sales. Nothing happens. You sell something.
We can agree, though, Mike. It's really setting up the referral to activate it, and someone's going to refer you. You better have a story behind it that you can quickly sell and communicate effectively, and you get that through a concerted effort to advertise whatever that formula might be. You know, I think I remember Ed saying, or you said something about he knew more about Ed. You learned more about Ed in that few little snippets that he introduced himself at the conference, and it was because he couldn't find it on his website, and it'll be the first one. He's getting there. He's almost there now. He's almost you're learning every day, aren't you, Ed?
Absolutely.
I think
Ed is also fending off. He's also,
more
to talk about referrals, Ed is also fending off business. He has more business. Ed can select, and Ed, that's essentially all referrals, right?
That's correct. You know, Mike, you know, one of the gentlemen that worked on the panel with me from New York, I mean, his comment was that you helped me so much in what you guys do. We need, you know, about 100 to 200 of you guys actually actively working in the marketplace, because the preparation that these companies need is not being done. And talking to their accountant or CPA has not been doing the job. And internally, nobody thinks about how to market their own business. They only look at marketing as how do I get business to come to me, instead of how am I look at if I have to sell.
Ed, I love that point. So Joe, thank you. Ed, thank you. Mike, could you take a sec, if you're willing, sir, to tie those two concepts together? Because unless I'm misremembering, having a social media presence and strategy and executing on that strategy is a prerequisite to work in. That's like if you're not doing that, you can't work with a strategic referral team, your company.
Yeah. Joe, your camera just had a seizure. So just thought I'd let you know. So they can certainly meet with me and we can discuss working together. At the moment there's an engagement, they are going to implement at least the basics of my social media strategy. So here's the deal, right? Inbound on social media is the stupidest strategy ever. Right? It's just dumb, right? You're expecting to write these blogs and these posts and to have a person miraculously, because of the algorithm, which of course exists to serve you and not LinkedIn, for example, right? But you're expecting this content of yours to be delivered to a prospect, that the prospect will actually be on LinkedIn. They're probably not. And that this is going to generate inbound business for you. No. All the business I'm getting there, George. All the business that I get from social media is because of outbound efforts that I do personally, whether it's commenting on other people's posts and developing a relationship with them. But most of it comes from doing webinars. It comes from being featured, like in different things. But it comes from my outbound efforts, being out there, being visible and present. My social media strategy is that when people do find me, that they find me, that they don't find a caricature of a salesperson. They find me. And my number one producing social media post is a post about my severely disabled son's 18th birthday. And I get more business as a result of that. Inbound, like I just got back from a nice consulting gig in Cincinnati. I didn't charge enough for it, $5,000 for a day. I didn't charge enough for it. I was embarrassed, but hey, I took the money. So there you go. The reason that guy hired me is because he heard me speak at a Raymond James private webinar I was invited to deliver on my referral process. He was fly fishing, heard me talk about fly fishing. Literally, he had gotten off the stream that morning and was in a bar drinking a beer, eating some wings, on his phone, watching and listening to this little webinar I was doing about COIs. Got interested in me as a result of that, looked on LinkedIn and saw the pinned post about my son. And when we talked a couple days later, he said, that was the thing that made me want to reach out to you, because I figured that if you're willing to share like that about what's going on, and he could see that I'm consistent about sharing who I am and what I'm about, he said, I believed you'd be somebody I could trust to talk to. Right. And so that's at the core of it. My social media strategy is designed to take advantage of what we can control, which is our own outbound efforts. And because they do have to provide a platform for us so that they can arbitrage our attention. I mean, that's what LinkedIn sells, right? Since they do have to have a platform, the parts on that platform that I control are what's on my profile. Does that help at all? Is that what you were looking for, Joel?
Yeah, no, you went on a, yes, you picked up the thread and ran with it. I will, as we often do, I will say, I actually believe that inbound is a great philosophy, and a great very powerful marketing strategy. However, I think you and I are saying the same thing, as we often do. Putting things out there and expecting people to find you is probably not the short road to success. But having a calendar, putting content out, relevant content, valuable content, giving things away for free, people.
Here's the thing. I put my content out, but I don't stop at putting my content out. And that's the problem with an inbound philosophy.
Okay, totally agree.
Keep going. Yeah. You have to, you deliver that content. And that's the outbound part. You have to deliver that content to your prospects that you have identified by name. If you're not delivering content, if you're not reaching out to people, whether it's by referral, cold call, smoke signals, South American tree frog poison with a blow dart, whatever. If you're not doing that, you are not marketing, you're branding. And that's why you're not getting business, right? Branding is unaccountable design and public relations. Marketing is targeting existing human beings.
Yeah. I totally agree. And when I say we suck at marketing as business advisors, we don't actually watch for the inbound, right? So we're not actually watching the fact that Steve has read every single one of my last 14 articles. We're not actually watching that. We know to, we may come out of the gate excited and start to, but we don't. And so
can I just ask a question, everybody? Does everyone here have a top 10 list by name and company of prospects that you want to work with in the next year?
Joe does. Yeah, Joe does. Silvana, you do?
By name, no, but I'm developing it.
Yeah.
So your feedback last time, I've been thinking very hard and looking at all my 5 avatars and then putting names to those people.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's so critical. Like, I was just working with these guys that haven't been around me as long as you guys have before we started the 12 hours of work on Friday. And the nice thing about having some time is I just said, hey, we went through that little exercise, name somebody that would be a game changer. And they did. I'm like, I don't know that person. How long did it take me? And you could see the realization. I said, guys, the secret to inbound, secret to outbound versus inbound is inbound. You're throwing it out there for the universe, and you're basically surrendering any control over your future, and the false mantra of more particular, more content delivering better inbound is complete bullshit. It's 100% crap, because you have to have outbound that's aimed at specific things. And like what George is saying is, like, the only inbound that I track really, really seriously is, and I've got the professional account, is when one of my prospects I'm targeting outbound interacts with a piece of my content or visits my profile. Right? Other than that,
Super smart.
yeah. Other than that, like, there's a number of steps that have to happen, for stuff to go. But like Silvana, just keep working on that, because fundamentally, at the core of really great referral marketing is this respect for other people's time. Right? And like, I just had somebody last week completely crush, asking me basically to find them business. And this is somebody that I referred business to, right? A value advisor. And I don't know if I talked to you about it, George, but I was sitting there in the conversation going, okay, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that you don't care about me or my time or anything, right? Now, the problem is that person knows that I know lots and lots of financial advisors. That's who they wanted to meet. Well, the challenge that they didn't think about was the fact that I know some of you on the call right now as well. And like, I have to really, really be connected to somebody to go create business for them without them asking.
And you know what's powerful about what you're sharing from my perspective, Mike? So we all know people who can help us. And if you say, hey, if I say I'm thinking of a specific instance I'm working on right now, who is in charge of X, and can you help me meet them? That's one ask. The other ask is, do you know Brenda? And then if that's yes, would you be comfortable?
Yeah. Well, think about it. Like, look at Ed. Ed, how many referrals have you given in your career?
Probably a couple of hundred as a minimum.
Like, and how much were those referrals worth?
Probably close to $1 million, because they went to people that ended up with 12 months to 24 months service contracts.
Right. So how many people have come to you asking for referrals and made it easy or comfortable for you?
Zero.
That just drives me crazy. Just knowing it and understanding your career. It's like, it's just, I hate to say it, but it's not just brand new people that get treated badly. I submit to you. I don't even know how to describe your prominence in the greater exit planning community, Ed. But the fact that no one's ever made it easy for you is beyond the pale. I'm just going to shut up.
Yeah.
I kind of, Mike, and I would probably say the exit planning community doesn't realize how poor they are at what they profess that they know. And when we get in there, work on
which level are you talking on, Ed? Are you talking about actual delivery of growth drive value?
No, I think the clients, the financial planners, have no clue what we as growth drive consultants, what we do to provide to them a foundation that they could rely on when they're putting together an exit plan for their client. Instead, they take client information as gospel, or maybe suspect it slightly, and they incorporate it, and then they tell the owner, well, what you need to do is drive up volume. My classic line is that, I looked at there's one I was working on in Charleston, and the person told them, well, you got to drive up volume. So you went from 3 million to 6 million in 2 years. And profitability went from, 22% to 7%. Well, they got volume, okay. but they lost control of their company
That's my
in making that kind of leap. But nobody looks before they jump. They hear one word, volume. And they don't look at
And you are very right.
You're so
Right.
right.
right. So Daniel, yeah.
Well, this is why I am
It's shareable.
advocating, and you'll hear me screaming that wealth advisors, even though they're not going to do a lick of this work, should take the C3D. You should participate in C3D. First of all, you're going to meet great people. Second of all, you're going to know how to hang in the conversation.
There's a third reason. So, and really interested in y'all's thought on this, right? And I know Ed's could agree, but it's terrifying for me, and I'm hyper specialized. Like I can't hang with you guys on general businesses. I just can't. I'm not a specialist in it. I just don't know it. George and I have talked about it and we agreed. But it's terrifying for me how bad consulting is within my niche of financial advisors. Number one, it's the same thing, Ed. It's the same thing. Is they're told they got to get to $1 billion of assets under management, and the entire same scenario happens. Profitability craters. The owner is completely horribly depressed and not having fun, and the business is, in spite of the fact that the multiples are insane on my side, in spite of that, it's bad. But I am terrified, and I mean this for all of you. I'm absolutely terrified of, as exit planning as a concept, growth driving as a concept grows, I'm really terrified of having a bunch of bad actors out there that are delivering bad consulting that challenges your guys' individual brand stuff. Like I think that we are, I think that's what scares me. I think that you have a lot of companies jumping in, but you have a lot of companies that are jumping into this and that are looking to do this at scale because they see the amount of money that's involved. I mean, you personally, I am concerned about the deliverables. I'm really concerned about deliverables and the impact that'll have on the market.
And that brings us full circle to why would we do C3D? Why are you getting into certification, George? It's quality assurance, right? And in a small sense, we don't have much notoriety, but in a small sense, it's a message to the market. You're saying, hey, I've demonstrated an understanding of these principles.
I
But
think you
in a
could
more important sense. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think you should do something, and I'm saying you, all of you, that you should do something about how a financial advisor and or a business owner, because they're the same, how could they pick? And I mean, seriously, what process could they undergo if they don't have access to us? What process could they go through to have somewhat of a chance of having a credible outcome?
A credible outcome for their client?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of financial advisors that work with people other than me, hopefully, that are having bad results. And the same thing's happening out there in the marketplace where you guys work. There are people out there that are taking advantage of your efforts, taking advantage of what's happening in like with Exit Planning Institute and BEI, these large organizations are raising their profile, and they're not delivering good results. And like, at what point does that negatively affect everything we're doing here?
It blows our credibility. You just circled into, or you just anticipated the point I was going to make. We need quality assurance, right? And what's important, if you think about an individual wealth advisor referring to or collaborating with, referring to Silvana, that's one level of trust. But imagine an enterprise, all right, a wirehouse. Their wirehouse is holy, and they are holy shit.
George and I talk about regularly.
We know that our FAs are introducing their clients to an unknown, and that unknown is a business advisor, an EOS implementer, a what have you, right? EOS implementers are good. We're better, but they're good. They're getting things done. But the wirehouse, the RIA, does not know what's going on. They don't understand. There is no process. There's no quality assurance. It's chaos. And from the perspective, once the coin drops, as it has with these wirehouses at the CEO level, Raymond James, Edward Jones, the list goes on, that they need to, Morgan Stanley, we've been talking about this for years with them. That's how much how important the reputational is. How do we start quality assuring? We're saying, okay, I don't know anything about anything, but if you refer Silvana in, here's what you know she will do. Silvana has, years of experience. Check her out on LinkedIn. She's a good actor. She has these credentials, and Silvana has successfully completed the C3D. Why do we care? Because Silvana is following a methodology that is defined, a process that is defined, and this process is proven to deliver results. So if you have to choose between chaos and Silvana, you choose Wirehouse. That is our opportunity as advisors to show up with a quality scalable answer. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll get off my soapbox. But quality assurance is a huge reputational risk. The reputational risk. Mike, can you comment for a sec about the value of a client to a business advisor versus the value of a client? Let's take a middle market business, 15 million gross revenues. What's the risk to the wealth advisor and the risk to the business advisor?
And this is just napkin math, right?
Yeah.
So,
total napkin math.
So 15 million. So
they sell for 1x gross.
So Silvana, do you mind helping me out?
Sure.
So
Yes.
for 15 million gross revenue, what would your monthly retainer be? And for how many years do you think you would normally have it with that business?
For 15 million?
Yeah, for a 15 million company.
I would say that that's a very good question. I answered this. I would say that the monthly retainer should be at minimum 7,500, and it will be between 7,500 and 10,000 a month. And here it is why.
That doesn't matter. So for the math, how long? So 75, let's say 10,000 for how much?
A $15 million company will probably not be in the place where it's predictable profit and revenue. So I think that it'll be at minimum 3 years.
Okay, so we're looking at...
We're smart.
So we're looking at 360K, right, George?
That's correct.
George, you're in charge of math. So 360. So the way that you look at that wealth advisor, if that's their client, right? That the value of that client is at least $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
A minimum of $1 million. Right. And there's a huge disparity. And this is real for you guys. There's a huge disparity because you know what we don't get on this call? Market growth.
Right.
Right. And so that's something you're going to have to navigate because a lot of wealth advisors, and George, do not share this in public.
Do you want me to stop the recording?
Yes, I do.
Let's pause the recording. Thank you very much. Those of you who missed that part of the conversation, hey man, you can join anytime.
But the other thing when it comes to the wealth advisor thing, and I know this is a very complex thing, but when it comes to trying to make the point to them, it is not necessarily just helping the company grow, which would also, grow the bottom line for the wealth advisor. But if the company sells, there's going to be extra cash that the particular wealth advisor would be able to take under management because this business owner, now he has got cash that he needs to do something with.
Let's talk about reach and relevance of wealth advisors with business owning clients. Do you guys mind if I go on a little bit of a tear? Would that be okay?
Yes.
So how relevant is a wealth advisor to transferable value? And they're only as relevant as they decide to be. And they're only as relevant as the good they deliver to their client. Even if it's simply educating, are you a 1 or a 5? At least be a 2, at least be an educator, right? You want to be relevant to your business owning client. And just sitting there and saying, oh, well, when you sell your business, I'm going to get the AUM. Guys, I'm telling you, I've been literally in the boardroom with the senior team they control trillions of dollars, and they have an over 80% loss. You sell your business, not only are we not going to get the AUM, but you're the 401k and the money market account, everything's going to eventually walk out the door. I forget the time frame, let's say a year. It's eventually going to walk out the door because you're suddenly plunking 20 million with a competitor, and that competitor is doing a lot of good. They're getting you into special programs, IPOs, restricted, things that 20 million can buy you into. How do you expand your reach and relevance, right? The wealth advisor. So now we want to sit with a wealth advisor and say, hey, I'm going to make you relevant to the growth and eventual transfer of the business. And here's how. And we're going to start with, this isn't the sales pitch. This is just us straight talking. You're going to start with, hey, we're going to get your client at the table. You and I are going to discuss, we're going to run them through clarity level 1. So we're going to help educate them about strategic capacity. We're going to educate them about the latent value of their business and how much of that can be monetized in an M&A or similar transaction. That's a value gap. We're going to help them. We're going to educate them on whether or not the value of their business will fund their long-term wealth plan. That's why you're at the table. And here's what's in it for you, Madam Wealth Advisor. What's in it for you is at the front end of this engagement on Act 1, Scene 1, Day 1, we're going to talk about effective senior leadership, business growth, and continuity. And you're going to have an opportunity to talk about and potentially sell advanced wealth planning, sophisticated compensation, and insurance products that are directly relevant to the client today. You're going to make your VIG today. You are also, and then I, as a growth driver, have taken a pledge, and my pledge is to keep you informed. I will respect your role with the relationship. I'm going to give the client back to you. Who said it? Silvana. Better than I found them. Ed, same thing, right? All of you, better than I found them. And I understand that you have an immortal relationship with the client, and that I have a transactional. Even if I'm with them for 3 years, at the transaction, if there's a transaction, I in all likelihood go away, but you stay on. And I want to make sure that you get a giant payout, that your client gets a giant payout and maximized. So that is how we expand the wealth advisor's reach and relevance and continuity, which the engineers have just pinged me. They want to show me hopefully the alpha, the one that I can release out to the beta that we can release out to the market. When we start using equity value planner and the risk management modules that are inside Clarity, we are pointing a laser beam on these exact issues. So you have $2 million worth of life insurance, but you need to put 21 million under management to meet your, the 2 million sounds like a lot until you realize that at a 4% withdrawal rate, it's not a lot of money. So anyway, that's my tear. Sorry, Silvana, I think I interrupted you. It was very rude. I apologize.
No, you actually added quite a lot of value to what I was trying to say and more detail. So yes, I totally agree with what you just said.
Yeah. When I say that this gentleman at 90 was what we're doing is exciting, is novel, is, I say unabashedly, it's revolutionary. EOS is good thinking. EOS is also limited thinking. EOS is is tapping into the very powerful internal resources. And why we are revolutionary is that you, by using this methodology, are saying, what you have here is great. What are best-in-class businesses doing? What are their habits? What are their habits that you might consider doing as well? And what impact would it have on your business if you started doing what best-in-class businesses are doing? And here's the list. Here's what best-in-class businesses are doing. So an EOS implementer is a great force, and they're very good at overcoming inertia and getting things going, but they also peter out, right? The business owner thinks they got this. We bring a different perspective to the table. And am I a fire breather on this? Guys, every senior person, like the best thinkers in the industry who see what we do, what we have at our disposal, goes bananas. Like they go hold the effing phone bananas. And that's exciting for you. And I am working literally night and day to make sure that we tell the market and say, go and find yourself a C3D. Find a growth driver. Here, I'll make it easy for you to meet them. We got a community of them. So we're this the only way we'll get to $1 trillion of impact, indelible impact. Go ahead, Joe, man.
We were talking to a business owner about, looking at your wealth and understanding that I liken it to remodeling a house. Where are you going to invest in first? Everybody says kitchen, of course. And then we say leadership team, of course. And how do we have evidence? How do we have evidentiary evidence that it's working other than it's just a gut, well, we seem to be getting along. Obviously, we installed something like the 90IO product and we have regular meetings and we have the checkout. How we spend our time? Are we getting robust conversations? There's the soft side, right? So Ed does the value gap. I do the leadership gap. It's kind of the way we divvy it up. But anyways, so when we go in to talk about the softer side, and I'm looking at this, there's a report out with this has been a couple of years, mid-market research done with the Ohio State and SunTrust and Vistage, and they're talking about really developing your backup guy, right? So you have to have a certain amount of size and organization to be able to develop that backup. And then the belief that we're all dispensable here in this organization, and we got to be thinking about our succession. Hard conversation to have, especially in a mid-sized SME world, right? And so as we try to develop those leadership things, and I know Steve has been, and a couple other guys in this group have done a really good job of trying to develop that. There's so many leadership tools out there, what's your predictive index score, but it's like that, go back to Ed. So, Ed, I see Ed all the time, but Ed, how you value with that? How do you put value to that in your work?
Well, that Joe, you're spot on, and that's precisely why we distribute value and the accretion to value amongst the 24 growth driving objectives, and we help the client understand that value is built out of bricks, out of gears, right? Gears in the business engine that are going to generate value. And I would posit that once we get this, if we follow the process, and we have the CEO go look at the 24 growth driving objectives and score themselves, and then we have the senior leadership team individually go through it anonymously. We anonymize and gather that up and say, okay, kids, you have a completely misaligned view of where the business is today. Let's reach a consensus view of the business. Let's carry that forward. That's a workshop, very lucrative for you, huge value for the client. Now, this only works if the client is properly qualified, if they're going to be transparent, if they're going to be vulnerable, if they're willing to listen, committed to change. Why we use the word intent. Now let's have the SLT do the deep analysis so we have a consensus, deep understanding of the business's strategic capacity. Now, if you haven't seen the new leadership module, the leadership module takes those 24 growth driving objectives and says, okay, before we get to execute guidance, let's say, okay, well, in these 4 functional areas, executive, finance, operations, revenue, sales and marketing, how is that function doing? It's just on a percentage basis. And that is these are unweighted, guys, the way we calculate these, they're just percentages. And who has primary accountability? And when we talk about this as a team, is the fact that the CEO is taking primary accountability for sales. Is that sustainable? Is that the path to growth? You know what the answer is. So if we break them out, we have the best practices. There you go, man. Beautiful. Love to see it. We have define what the objective is. And if we say, okay, Steve, you're my CFO. Now when we start building a plan, we can start waterfalling these in a way that distributes the workload because we're operating inside, what is it, McFarland, who's called it the whirlwind? We're operating inside the whirlwind, and we have day jobs. So how do I not overtax Steve? And how do I get collaborative accountability from the rest of the senior leadership team to support Steve when he is, when he is executing on something, recurring revenues? which is actually right.
I think you hit a nail on the head, though, with that, George, and that is all too often owners take a easy path to put their management team together in that they find a person that they seem to get along with, and so they said, oh, good, you're good for that job. And then they find the next person that seems to have a compatible personality. They said, oh, good, we'll put you into that job. And then we find the third person that's got compatibility, and they go into the third job. And then we find somebody that needs help and training. We say, well, why don't we put you in HR? Because that's an area that nobody knows what they're doing, and you'll fit there very well because you have no background.
Silvana started as Silvana is not a fractional CFO, although she could be. But you started as our bookkeeper, and then you became, you were here for a while, and we wanted to do something nice for you because we like you, and you're doing a good job. So we're going to make you the controller, and then we call you the controller. Next thing you know, if you need another, you've been here for 20 years. Let's make you the CFO. Does that mean that you're the CFO? It means you have the title, but are you meeting those accountabilities? And Ed, you just hit on, it's the hardest thing in the world to sit down with a business owner and say, and Mike would, your senior team, they're very nice people. They suck. They are the people. I'm sorry, that's a little rough. They are potentially not able to execute against your intent. And so you need to make some hard decisions. I'm not saying fire everyone. We don't do that to people, right? These are livelihoods. These are families. But I am saying they may need some coaching. You may need some fractional help. If you're going to up the game here, something has to change. And I get that you love Silvana. Who doesn't? But Silvana isn't really a CFO. And the bear is, and you guys, I love your comments because then we're going to close it out for the week. How do we educate clients and help them? They need to come to the conclusion themselves. My son, Luke, when he quit playing soccer and he was playing at a pretty elite level, did it himself, right? Because he came to the realization that something had to change. He was pretty badly injured and muscling through it. How do we get our client to make this decision themselves? And that's the secret sauce. And that's facilitation. That's the growth conversation. That's deep listening.
Well, and how that comes about more often, I think, is when the bomb goes off in their business is the first time they then will react and start saying, oh my God, something's wrong. Well, welcome. I don't mean to say that you need to have a torrential flood like we had with these hurricanes and the tornado and that. But a lot of times a business owner is so decent, if you will, and content with their earnings.
Heck yes.
Examine the business because they're riding the wave and it just seems like it's going to go on forever.
And with whom was I was just talking, and it was one of the women in this community. Gosh, who was I talking to? And she said, my client wants it, but he does not want to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And that...
He's got a lifestyle business.
That becomes a growth limiter. Now you need to decide if you want to become the chairman and bring in an actual operator. EOS recommends it. It could be smart. You may be the limiter, and it could be your skill level. Larry is working with a $34 million gross annual revenue plumbing company. The guy doesn't have, he may not, who cares, right? I don't even think he has a college education. Who cares? Doesn't even have. That's pejorative. He has worked his tail off, and he has built a $34 million a year business with no formal training, right? That's a better way to say it. He's deeply passionate about his people, but he doesn't want to break his back. He's like, I don't want to, I'm not even sure I want to get this thing ready to sell. Just give it to the senior leader. He wants to give it to his daughter. That's not going well. Anyway.
I like to use when the profits go down and the REITs get exposed, you see all the people that are swimming naked.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Joe. And we'll end this week on that. Love that. Thank you, Joe. All right, guys. Got a great conversation. Thank you so much. I hope to see you all next week. Bring a friend. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Guys, have a great week. If I can do anything to help.
Nice to see you all.
Yeah. Nice to see you, Giovanna. Thank you, Ed.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.